Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our 28th meeting of this Rotary year. Before we start, let's hear the housekeeping rules. Over to you, Klaus.
Good evening, President. Good evening, fellow Rotarians. Good evening, guests. It's my pleasure to tell again the housekeeping rules. So please make sure that you are registered with your full name and that the video, keep it switched on throughout the session. And this session will be recorded for record keeping and for club promotion to media. And you will be muted during the meeting, and you can use the chat function to communicate with other members. And later at the end, when it's time for question and answers, please raise your hand and you will be invited to talk and ask your questions. Thank you very much. Enjoy the meeting.
Thank you very much, Sergeant at Arms Klaus. And now may I call upon Subhash to welcome our guests before we go to the toasting.
Thank you, President Luis. Tonight, again, we have quite a good number of outstanding prospects and guests. I will recognize them not in the order of their names. Mr. Cedric Chu, he has been guest of Dr. Chan. We have Leonard Osaka, the guest of Dr. Chan. Then we have Dr. Polak Inga, the guest of President Luis. And we have Vimal Narayanan, my guest. And Sissy Go, we're smiling, always smiling, Sissy Go, the guest of PP Mark. We have Thiru, my guest, whom I met him just a couple of days back. Then we have a new member, prospect member, outstanding member, Danuk, yeah, and he is the guest of mine and guest of Luis Ali. And then we have two members who have been already cleared by MCMD, Charles Ho, which is on the, at the cusp of becoming member. Charles Ho is already a member, like he's going to be inducted formally. And there was Jun Dong, who is also there. So I welcome you all. And you as a prospects or guests have full rights to participate in this meeting, including asking questions and all that. Feel free, consider this is your own club. Thank you so much for attending this. President Luis, over to you.
Thank you, Director Subhash. It is so lovely to hear so many guests and prospects. And this is doing something very wonderful for Rotary. I thank all of them for attending. And I hope that we can learn from each other. Whatever projects you have in mind, let us know. We'll see if we can work together. And now it gives me great pleasure to call upon our Toastmaster for this evening to raise a toast to any visiting guests, visiting Rotarians, as well as Rotary International.
Good evening, fellow Rotarians, guests, President Luis. It's my pleasure to raise a toast today to Rotary International. Fellow Rotarians, please join me in the toast to the Rotary Club of Singapore, coupled with the toast to Rotary International.
Singapore, Rotary International. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Hitesh. And now some announcements that I have to make. Birthday celebrants for today is Dipu Joseph, who is in UAE, I believe, in Dubai. So I'm not sure whether he's here, but we wish him all the best for today. May he have a very fruitful and enjoyable evening. And then Ravi Machiraju, 22nd, and myself in next Monday. So happy birthday to them and myself.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And then we have wedding celebrants, Ranga and Uma, 20th January, Alex and June Liga on the 23rd, and Horst and Deborah Hagman for 25th. So wish them everlasting love and happiness. Thank you very much. And let's move on to the next one. Yeah, well, we have improved. Last week we had 72, and now we have 55 outstanding. We are moving and inching closer to fulfilling what we want to do, which is to, by February, resolve this outstanding so that the club can focus on doing what the club is supposed to do, serve to change lives, and we can focus our energies on that. So members, we appeal to you to pay your dues. If there's anything you wish to discuss, for example, some of you may have relocated and are now ambassador members, let us know. And if the bill amount is wrong, let us know, we will adjust it accordingly. So thank you for your cooperation. And very pleased to inform you that on the 17th of January, which was Monday, 2 days ago, through the help of Dr. Chan, our VP, and also major project chair, and also Associate Professor Stephen Wee and Dr. Tan Xiao Yan from the National Center for Infectious Diseases. It was the first time that NCID, for some who are not aware, is the main center that deals with infectious diseases, and they've been around for many years in different names. Some of you who are older and were in Singapore in the early part of the 1950s, you will know the Communicable Disease Center. So that now comes under NCID. So NCID is the place where they really look at how to enforce safe measurements, safety issues, how to deal with infectious diseases. Is there where all the experts are. So with me, seated next to me and standing next to me is Professor Liu Yixin, whom some of you will have seen quite often in the news, talking about infectious diseases. So we are the first organization to sign this letter of collaboration with NCID. And we are very excited because, in June this year, we will roll out the plans to educate our Rotarians, our Rotractors, our Interactors. We are the public health ambassadors, and we will be trained to deal with, issues related to infectious diseases. It will be called the detective camp, and we will play a big part in this. So we are very proud to be part of NCID in collaboration. So once again, thank you to Dr. Chan, who is unable to join us this evening. And next week, 26th of January, will be our club's hybrid dinner meeting at the Tanglin Club, Churchill Room. It starts from 7 to 9. As I speak now, I believe we have less than maybe 10 seats left, almost all taken up. So I'm not sure of the figure. It will be known by this evening or tomorrow morning, but I know as at about 6 p.m., it was like down to maybe 10 or 11 seats left. So for those who are keen to join us, you can scan the QR code now. It will bring you to our Eventbrite, but you do not pay Eventbrite. There is a separate payment. You need to scroll down after you scan this QR and then look for how to register yourself and make the payment. Okay, very exciting because on the 26th is our four-way test debate. Some of the debaters are here with us this evening, our fellow Rotarians. So they're going to debate the four-way test. It's going to be a interesting and exciting 26th of January. And now SSO, the Singapore Symphony Orchestra, together with the Foundation of Rotary Clubs Singapore. Okay, that is the charity arm of all Rotary clubs in Singapore. They are doing this joint fundraising concert. It's called Serenades with Andrew Litton and Chloe Hunslip. And that will be on the 25th of February, 7:30 p.m., Victoria Concert Hall. For more details, please contact our Rotarians, Matthias Bogner and Uttam Kripalani. They will give you more information about the event, and we hope that you can support this event. So this next item, okay, in conjunction with World Peace and Understanding Day. Now, World Peace and Understanding Day, or in short, WUPD, is in fact, it's like the National Day of the Rotary clubs worldwide. Every year on the 23rd of February, Rotary clubs all over the world will actually celebrate World Peace and Understanding Day. So I think there's some typo here, always called WUPD. So a bit of a slip here. But anyway, 23rd of February, every year we do this. And we promote world peace through Rotary. Rotarians are doing a lot of things every day in their lives. And you are guided by the four-way test. You are guided by, the guide to daily living. You are guided by your vocations. So, the World Understanding and Peace Day this year, we are in talks with the different clubs in Singapore. We are going to do a physical event with the blessings of DG Dolly Yap. So the Singapore clubs will get together, hopefully in one venue for a big number. Maximum, as you know, is 100. So we will do to the maximum if possible. And then we will get together and we'll Zoom in together with our fellow Rotarians in Sabah, Sarawak, Brunei, and Malacca, Johor. So that will be 23rd of February, venue to be confirmed, details to be confirmed. So this is the proceeds from the SSO and the FRCS joint effort will go to FRCS Elder Care and Caregiver Center, which we are also going to partner with for our major project called Share a Pot at Home. Next, may I call upon Rotarian Sri Hari to introduce our speaker for this evening. Sri Hari, over to you.
Good evening, President Luis, directors, fellow Rotarians, and guests. It's my privilege and honor to introduce you tonight our speaker, none other than our own Rotarian, Hayden Hughes. Mr. Hughes is the Chief Executive Officer of Alpha Impact, a trading platform for cryptocurrencies, where aspiring traders can learn how to trade crypto from experts. He's a non-practicing lawyer who has previously held leadership roles at Crypto.com, the global cryptocurrency exchange, and Techemi, a crypto and blockchain-focused investment bank. He's a lifelong entrepreneur who has founded 4 and exited several companies and has lived in Canada, New Zealand, and Singapore. Rotarian Hayden's talk will be aimed at helping fellow Rotarians understand cryptocurrencies as well as implications of crypto for the modern day investors. Rotarian Hayden, please.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the opportunity to speak this evening. So let me just quickly share my slides, and then I will get started. Just give me a moment. Okay, sorry, I'm repositioning while we're talking. Sorry, I have 2 monitors set up. Just give me 5 seconds, please. Okay, great. So I will go to full screen. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. It's an honor. And before I get started, I just wanted to give a tremendous vote of thanks for the local Singapore branch of Rotary for the invitation. Just a couple of comments. I wish to wish a sincere happy birthday to Louis, Ravi, and Deepu. I see somewhere here you're all 37 or 38 years old, or at least that's how old you look. So, so keep up the great work. Thank you to Subhash for bringing in so many prospective members. It's really great to see. I noticed, Subhash, that there were quite a lot of doctors that you brought in. I hope that the hospitals have enough doctors left for the duration of the meeting with all you've brought. But I'll move forward with the presentation. I'm sure we're in good hands. So a little bit about myself. My name is Hayden Hughes. I'm originally Canadian. I'll just briefly go through my own career. So I went to UBC in Vancouver in my home of Canada, and actually dropped out after a few years to start my first business, which was a window cleaning company in Vancouver, Canada. So at that time, I didn't realize that window cleaning could be a great business, but we very quickly franchised the business, and it became clear there was a real market opportunity there. So after 6 years, I sold that company and I moved to New Zealand, where I enrolled in the University of Auckland when I went to law school. During that time in law school, I did a few things. And normally for law students, it's quite busy. I actually started a business, which you see at the top right there, teaching law students. And so I was actually not the tutor. I was just an okay student, but I quickly found that there was a market for helping some young students gain entrance and admission into competitive law schools around New Zealand. My other non-stressful part-time law school job was selling residential real estate. So I did that for a few years as well. It was very, very busy. At some point through my studies, I decided I didn't want to actually become a lawyer. It just didn't seem fun enough or exciting enough for me. So I joined a venture capital fund called Icehouse Ventures in New Zealand, initially as an associate and then as a partner. And in 2017, which is 5 years ago now, I remember raising capital for our fund and meeting some gentlemen that had raised funding in what was known as an ICO, a cryptocurrency related fundraising. And they had raised $80 million in 6 minutes, literally 6 minutes, I'm not joking. And so I thought, if these guys can raise that amount of money, then I should really try to get a job in the space. So I made some phone calls and eventually wound up at a company called Techemy. We raised about $500 million US for 19 different cryptocurrency or blockchain related companies in 2017 and 18. So it's a regulated investment bank in New Zealand operating globally. They sent me to Singapore in 2018 to build relationships with traditional investors here and throughout the region. And I was headhunted to join Crypto.com. You may be aware of Crypto.com as they have a card, a physical payment card. I was working on the exchange side. So worked there for some time. And truthfully, in 2020, I was actually making more money trading cryptocurrencies than I was working full time. So I did what any risk managed person might do and left my role to pursue trading full time. And it was, if I thought working was stressful, trading was definitely stressful. So I founded Alpha Impact in late 2020 with my co-founder, Austin, who comes from a banking technology space. So he previously built trading systems for hedge funds and banks. And we really had this idea to try to make crypto more accessible for people. So the topic of tonight's lesson or
sorry,
talk. Yeah,
sorry, Hayden. Yeah, could you switch to presentation mode? You're still in the notes mode. Go to display setting. Yeah, and yeah, thank you.
Talk me through how to do this again.
Yeah, you go to display setting on top and then switch. Yeah, display setting, click on the arrow next to display setting, next to it. Move your arrow next to it.
Here? Apps.
Yeah, it's still at show taskbar. You need to go to display setting, click on it, and then change it to presentation mode.
Video settings.
Maybe you want to try push the cursor to the left.
No, it's not this one. It's on top of your PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
above, no, not this. Above.
Above
higher,
there?
higher. On the right.
To the right. To the right.
Next to display setting. Display setting. Next to it.
Next to this.
Yeah, display setting. You see the display settings next to it?
The center.
Center, not the first. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
This.
Yeah.
Click on this.
This is where it was before.
And you switch to presentation mode. No, this is below. You're actually showing your...
No, not the Zoom. Not the Zoom.
Can I suggest another way of you trying to switch it across? Yeah, so
sure.
If you want to use, just exit the particular option here, exit the full screen.
Okay.
In your PowerPoint, go to the option called slideshow. On the menu bar, on the PowerPoint, go to the option called slideshow.
Okay.
And within that, you will have an option called monitor. It'll open up the ribbon and you'll have an option called monitor on the slideshow menu. You saw that? No, not there. I'm referring to, you need to get to the PowerPoint itself on the title bar of the PowerPoint.
Okay, I'm in the PowerPoint.
Yeah, so go to the menu, which is the slideshow, which says slideshow. Yeah, click on that And within that, you will see something known as monitors under that.
Yeah, automatic primary
Yeah,
monitor.
so within that, you click on that particular drop down, don't go automatic, and switch on the monitors in the drop down. You will have two monitors, automatic and two others.
Yeah.
Yeah, switch the one which is not highlighted now. That is the one which we should see.
I think it's this one. Okay, let's try this. Okay, is it working?
No, it didn't. Can you just try the other monitor? You
Sure.
probably didn't switch it across.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, all good.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Gosh, okay, we're good. So we're going to be talking a little bit about crypto, the early years, what actually happened, the actual adoption of cryptocurrencies, as well as how cryptocurrencies are valued, and some of the implications for investors today. So in the early years, Bitcoin was created as the first blockchain. And so it was created by an anonymous person or group of people known as Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008. And it was really created as a response to the perception that that traditional monetary systems should not be politicized. And so you see that headline, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. That was actually imprinted on the very first blockchain block for the Bitcoin blockchain. So you can see here, we started as a very small community. You could see the number of wallets with the Bitcoin balance. It started very small and grew exponentially from there. We're at hundreds of millions of wallets today, but it took a few years to really get going. And one of the first really major events in the crypto sphere was Mt. Gox. And Mt. Gox was a major crypto exchange in 2014. In 2014, there weren't many crypto exchanges, and it had a 70% market share, and it was hacked. And when the biggest exchange in the world gets hacked and shuts down, that was a major impact for crypto. And 6% of all the BTC in circulation at that time was actually lost. They've since recovered some, and there's been a long, painful journey, but this was a major event and caused a big bear market. And so in 2017, when I entered the space, ICOs, Ethereum, and Bitcoin really became daily topics of conversation. You can see along the bottom here, excuse me, some of the monthly fundraising totals, and this is in millions of dollars. So billions and billions were raised in 2017 and 2018, and with companies that a lot of them were doing really exciting things, but you had a lot of businesses and a lot of founders that just pivoted their businesses from whatever they happened to be doing towards crypto and blockchain. And I remember Ethereum increasing 23,000% that year. There was an ICO that raised $4 billion. This you might think is funny, decentralized Jesus. That was a coin called Jesus Coin that raised $2 million. And so it was really a time of excess in the crypto market. No adoption, nothing happening, but a lot of fundraising happening. And so what goes up must come down. And so there was no adoption, as I mentioned. Prices declined 80 to 90% in 2018. And this time in the crypto winter, as it was called, many newspapers around the world proclaimed that crypto was over, Bitcoin is dead, it's collapsed. And so Facebook came onto the scene in 2019. And they launched Libra, they tried to launch Libra, which unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum and some other crypto assets, was not meant to be a volatile currency. It was meant to be a stable currency based on a basket of existing currencies. And so the idea that Facebook had was that there'd be this ecosystem of partners that would allow each other to redeem and accept payments using the Libra token. And anyone with a smartphone and a Facebook account would therefore have a wallet. This was quickly attacked by regulators. And you see here the red lines, a lot of the financial companies backed out. And the idea was that from governments that private companies shouldn't control monetary systems. That was just too much control for Facebook to have over the global financial economy. And so what happened in 2020 was that there was the end of decorrelation. So prior to COVID, and I'll just put a chart on the screen here as well. Prior to COVID, you can see that there's about as much red as there is green on that chart. And what that means is sometimes Bitcoin moved with the stock market. When the stock market went up, Bitcoin went up. Sometimes it was the opposite. And there was really no rhyme or reason. And ever since 2020, you can see it's been consistently green, which means that Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies are now trading a lot like Tesla or a tech stock. So in 2020, a publicly traded company called MicroStrategy began acquiring Bitcoin from its balance sheet. The CEO became a pundit and a well-known personality in crypto circles, and they've spent $3.8 billion, and they're one of the largest holders of Bitcoin. They now have 124,000 Bitcoins. So they've made about $1.4 billion in that time, acquiring cryptocurrencies since Q3 2020. And it's interesting because MicroStrategy is a publicly traded market data company. The actual business is not that large. It's $126 million a year in revenue. So their valuation is $5.6 billion today. Most of that is because of their balance sheet. So if you're looking to get exposure to Bitcoin and you don't want to actually get Bitcoin, that stock is a great way to do it. El Salvador started buying Bitcoin last year, and El Salvador, more popularly known for its human rights abuses, became known for its tolerance of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin actually became an accepted monetary unit last year in September. So Bitcoin is one of the official currencies in El Salvador today. So I think it's important to explain the adoption that's happening in cryptocurrency. And there's a conception in some quarters that crypto is not based on anything. It's just people buying and selling. There's not actually anything happening. And that's actually not true. There are ecosystems at play here. So when we talk about smart contracts, these are, excuse me, digital contracts that run when predetermined conditions are met. So Lewis, for example, you'll be part of my example here. Lewis might decide that he wants to speculate and lend me some currency. So I might say, okay, Lewis, I will give you $1,000 of Bitcoin and you loan me against that $1,000, 200 US dollars. So it's a collateralized loan. And the moment I repay the $200 to Lewis, then I would get my $1,000 worth of Bitcoin back. If my $1,000 of Bitcoin decreased in value, some of that Bitcoin would get sold to maintain enough protection for Lewis. So these are things that, unlike the traditional financial system where you need lawyers and people looking at things, can be done automatically. And so the first smart contract platform, Ethereum, has been very volatile over its 6 years. This is the price you see on the right-hand side here is the Ethereum token. And that token represents the Ethereum ecosystem. So Ethereum is the native token of the Ethereum blockchain. This blockchain has an ecosystem built on top of it. There are others. I think we have Colin on the call from Tezos, fantastic blockchain. There's an ecosystem that's built on Tezos, for example. So there are a lot of different cryptocurrencies that represent ecosystems. Bitcoin is not one of those, but there are a number that are. And so smart contracts are popularly used in something called DeFi. So the collateralized loan that I just described with Lewis is one of the many functions of DeFi. And so users deposit collateral and borrow against that collateral. And the current value of these markets is about $100 billion. And so when people start to say crypto is not based on anything, this is a $100 billion collateralized lending market that sits on top of Ethereum and a few other blockchains. So NFTs, the opposite of adoption is NFTs. So NFTs are a virtual piece of art where ownership can be verified. So it's not just a JPEG, it's a JPEG where you might have an unique ownership where I can say this, I have bought this piece of art and it's mine, and I can prove that it's mine. And we see here Beeple sold, this is an NFT, actually a collage of NFTs that took the artist 5 years to make. And this was sold for $69 million last year. And I think there are a lot of questions around why are these JPEGs worth so much money? And it's very similar to the idea of authenticity. The Mona Lisa, there's only one of them, and it's hanging in Paris. And I might have a perfect replica of the Mona Lisa in my home, but if you come over, you will know that I don't have the real Mona Lisa and that it can't possibly be worth the same as the Mona Lisa. So we're authenticating ownership with NFTs. NFT transaction volumes are now at all-time highs. But my personal view here of NFTs is that there's really no adoption in this market. And I personally consider this a bubble. So what happened to crypto in 2018, I think will happen with NFTs. Crypto has this massive network of adoption, but that's not the case with NFTs today. So let's talk a little bit about how cryptocurrencies are valued. So many feel that Bitcoin is a digital store of value, similar to gold. And we could see on the right-hand side here, the Bitcoin, the rate of production for Bitcoin slows down over time. So if we look at this blue line on the chart, you can actually see that as a percentage of the total, Bitcoin is being produced, but that line is slowing down. And so what that tells us is that Bitcoin is becoming more scarce over time. The amount of Bitcoin that gets produced every 10 minutes decreases every 4 years. And so Bitcoin's monetary policy is pre-programmed, and every 10 minutes, there's new Bitcoin that's created to compensate participants on the network. And so every 4 years, you could see here, the number of Bitcoin in circulation is increasing, but it's increasing at a slower rate. So during these events every 4 years, we call them halving events, the rate of Bitcoin supply gets cut by 50%. So today, 6.25 Bitcoins are created every 10 minutes. And in 2024, it's not pictured here, that will cut down to 3.25. So we're in a deflationary environment for Bitcoin. And these events tend to precipitate major rallies. So one of the theories or valuation methods for Bitcoin says that when these predetermined supply shocks occur, the price of Bitcoin will rally accordingly. So this, I am gonna skip and just go straight to this. So we know Bitcoin's future scarcity based on this predetermined supply schedule. And so we can actually model based on the relationship between scarcity and value. We can look at Bitcoin's future value. And you can see here that this gray line that we see is a model, it's a projection, but it's been pretty accurate historically, predicting the future price of Bitcoin. So as Bitcoin becomes more scarce over time, it has gone up in market value. And you can see the colored line that you see is the historical price, and this gray line is the model price. So when you hear people talking about Bitcoin is going to 100,000, there is a mathematical basis behind that. So this next one is a little bit easier to grasp. It's a little bit closer to earnings per share. So we talked a little bit about these collateralized lending markets and something called DeFi. And the metric that we use to quantify how big these lending or DeFi markets are is called value locked. So it's easy. If Lewis has me putting in $1,000 of Bitcoin and many, many others, he might have a value locked of $1 million. And there might be other networks that have less than that. So what we're looking at here is different ecosystems. So these are all ecosystems that have their own blockchain, they have their own adoption, they have their own DeFi, they have their own lending. So these are different ecosystems that we're looking at. And we can actually look at the, excuse me, the value locked in billions in USD in each of these ecosystems. So pretty straightforward so far. Then we can look at the market capitalization of these tokens. So remember, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, they all have their own blockchain, which means they have their own token. So we look at the value locked in those ecosystems. Then we look at the market cap of the token. And that gives us these ratios. And so the market cap to TVL ratio, I've highlighted some in red here. You can see some are very high, and you can see some are actually very low as well. So I've just colored in Terra is probably the most attractive, the most undervalued, whereas Polkadot and Near look the most overvalued, and then you have some in the middle. So this is when crypto investment managers look at these cryptocurrencies, they look at ratios like this. It's a little bit more complex in the real world, but this is one crude way of looking at, well, which ecosystems are actually worth investing in. So that's one of the ways that we value some of these protocols that have their own tokens. So I think one of the important things, and I'm almost finished here, is the implications for the modern investor. So the main point I want to make here is that there is adoption happening on many of these ecosystems. Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Cardano, and a lot of folks think that crypto is just too volatile. But what Bloomberg and other publications have really reported on is the fact that this volatility is worth it. Crypto is in adoption mode and the market is assigning a price. So the smaller the coin, the more volatile. My expert advice is that you need to be willing to buy and hold for many years. As a short-term investment, you really have to know what you're doing. But if you're willing to wait for several years to get paid, these are great investments. Now, you might be thinking, why am I giving you advice? The advisory of crypto assets in Singapore is actually not regulated. So I'm allowed to give an opinion. If you're outside of Singapore, this is not investment advice. You should speak to an expert in your jurisdiction. So Coinbase has this amazing product called Coinbase Learn. You could scan the QR code there down at the bottom. It's built for beginners. They have a very easy to use platform. And so if you want to learn about crypto, that's a great place to get started. Alpha Impact, where of course I'm the CEO, full disclosure, we're a social trading platform. You can learn from top traders and copy their trades. You can see some of our top traders there. Chris has returned 418% over the last year. And you can actually see what these people are talking about. You can see what's in the portfolio, and you can see what they're doing on a trade by trade basis. And there's a QR code there as well. And in terms of actually getting started, here in Singapore, I think the safest place to start is CoinHako. They're one of the very few MAS licensed crypto exchanges, and you could buy or sell with SGD. So I was just with them earlier today. They're fantastic. They have great investors. They have a great team, and they're based right here in Singapore, registered under the Payment Services Act. So that's it. That takes us to the end. And thank you very much for listening. I will stop sharing as well. And I'm happy to take questions if folks want to ask questions in the chat.
We have one question from Uttam.
Tom has got his hand up, yeah.
Yeah, hi. Reports in yesterday's newspapers talk in terms of MAS making announcement, in my view, scaring the common man from investing in cryptocurrencies and other such blockchain products. Would you advise common people like me to look at cryptocurrencies to make money?
So there's two pieces to your question. The MAS is not the only government that's been making comments, and we tend to see, well, China has a whole other agenda. They don't want currency to leave the Chinese shores, and we could go into a whole debate. But what we tend to see is that regulators talk to each other to do this in a very coordinated manner. Singapore was not the first to make these comments. The UK has just come out today. There are other regulators that are really in line. What we tend to see in moments of market volatility or exuberance, although crypto has become much less volatile than it once was, we tend to see people who really shouldn't be investing make investments that they should not be making. So I think the question of whether or not you should invest really depends on your ability to answer a yes or no question. And I think the thesis for people that are new to crypto should be, do I believe personally that cryptocurrency or blockchain adoption will be higher in the future than it is today? And if you can answer yes, if you can get enough information to answer yes to that question, then I would strongly encourage you to buy some, to the extent that you're able to afford it and you can wait for 3 to 4 years. In a 1 year time horizon, Uttam, you could lose 50%, 60%, 80%. In a 4 year time horizon, you could make 3,000%, but that doesn't matter if you've lost 75% and you sell in 1 year. So I think you need to be very aware of the fact that this is a volatile asset class. I've highlighted some cryptocurrencies that have adoption underneath them. These ones that have blockchains that we sit on top of. I've mentioned Colin from Tezos. I own a great deal of Tezos tokens, tremendous amount. I have a tremendous amount of faith in their leadership as well as Colin and others. So I think if you are going to go down this road, you need to identify cryptocurrencies that have adoption. They need to have an ecosystem. And the news media is generally not the best place to go. Although I've published some, or Bloomberg has quoted me talking about some of these cryptocurrencies. So I hope that answers the question.
So as a layman, I should not get involved in cryptocurrencies.
Oh, no, I think you should. But you definitely should. You just need to be willing to lose your shirt and not sell and hold for 4 years. And buy the right ones that have ecosystems sitting on top. So.
And you would be a good advisor to go to.
You can check out our website, alphaimpact.fi. We, Ethereum is, I think, a safe bet, as is Bitcoin.
Thank you.
I think, can I just jump into this, Ranga here? Hayden, thanks for the session. It was pretty cool. Thank you. There are quite a lot of cryptos going on, a lot of currencies. Some of them which are also built to actually mimic the stability of regular currencies like USDC. Can you share a little bit more about what's happening there?
Yeah, so in 2018, we saw a shift. And the shift we saw was that prior to 2018, when you're selling cryptocurrency, you really had very little options. You had to sell into another cryptocurrency, for example. And if you're selling one volatile thing into another volatile thing, the whole thing is just not very easy to stand up on its own. So we saw the advent of something called stable coins, which are tokens that you can sell. So you can sell Bitcoin and you can get Singapore dollar or US dollar equivalent in cryptocurrency. And so it's a really important part of the maturing of the market, because if you can only sell something that's 80% intraday volatility into something that's 80% volatility, it's very tough to actually make a market. You need to be able to get out, in other words. And doing crypto to normal currency transactions is fairly painful. The banks have this perception that everything crypto is terrible and it's evil. If you touch crypto, you're the Taliban. So I think having these stable coins is very important to be able to sell out of something that's volatile into something that's not volatile, and vice versa. So that's an innovation we've seen since 2018. And the size of that market, in other words, the amount of, the only way you can get a stable coin is actually by depositing a US dollar or a Singapore dollar. So these currencies have drastically increased, which tells us that there's more and more hard currency coming into the space.
Thank you.
Subhash?
Yeah. Hayden, wonderful presentation, and for a layman, yeah, I must appreciate that in the beginning. Yeah. Okay. Now I have been dabbling with this or flirting with cryptocurrency for almost 1 year, and I took a plunge. A friend of mine was saying that, yeah, I took a plunge through Binance. It's about little amount, little or large, it depends who you're talking to. And they realized the Binance Singapore is now closed. Now and I have no problem in holding for 3-4 years and expecting 3,000% increase. I have no problem. I can put in money. I've been telling my friend, you should put in money which you are ready to lose. So maybe in 3-4 years if it can go, which is the easiest and simple way of investing in Singapore, because the Binance Singapore was I felt it was a very stable and nice place to start with, and now they have walked out of it. So what you will suggest in Singapore for a simple, where the authentication is not complex and we can buy and sell? Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And I'm not sure if I can circulate my slides after, but I'll do the best that I can to do so. For Singapore, for less than $20,000 transactions, CoinHako is, I can write it down here, hold on. There we go, coinhako.com. So for less than 20,000, if you try to do more than 20, you'll trigger advanced KYC and it will be harder. But if you're doing less than 20K, they're a great platform. They take bank deposit. They're, I don't know, I think Sing. Yeah.
Would the chairman please recognize raised hands?
Omkar, go ahead. Yeah.
Switch on your speaker. You're on mute.
Omkar, you need to unmute yourself.
Omkar, we can't hear you. You got to unmute, please.
Unmute Omkar.
Okay.
Yes,
Is it
you are
okay?
muted. You can speak now.
Yeah, given the increasingly high correlation between crypto assets and the stock market, what are the risks of contagion across the financial market, particularly since there is not yet any global financial regulations about this? That is one question. And secondly, so that we don't have another 2008 crisis. Secondly, you mentioned in 2008, one of the reasons why this was introduced was so that the central banks will not be playing with the monetary policy, abusing the monetary policy by the central bank. How successful has this thing in attaining that objective?
Okay.
Thank you.
Great questions. So to the first one, I think, what's the risk of contagion given the correlation with equity markets? I think it's very high. We've seen since, as I mentioned, since March 2020, crypto has been very highly correlated. There is an experiment that I would say a lot of us are waiting to see what happens, which is what happens when the fundamentals of Bitcoin look good and the world economy looks bad. And just to give an example, the price of Bitcoin today is roughly the same as it was 12 months ago. Although 12 months ago, Bitcoin appeared on just about every metric that we have, extremely overbought, overhyped, FOMO. It looked like a bubble at that time, at that moment in time, in terms of price. We're now at a point where the price is virtually the same as it was a year ago, and it looks oversold. We've taken a beating. Most of the metrics that we have show us that we're actually below where we should be, and that it's oversold. So it will be interesting to see what happens. I think that as an investor personally, I'm expecting there to be a lot of volatility this year. I believe that Bitcoin will be worth, and Bitcoin, I mentioned one point that the smaller the coin, the higher the volatility. I'm an investor. I want to make money. Bitcoin is never going to give me 100 times. So I try to focus on smaller coins, and I'll try to put a list here. I like Ethereum. I like some others that I think have more upside potential, that are earlier in the space. But to answer your question, I think the risk is very high. If stocks go down, if rates go up, I think we could see a 50% decrease in the value of Bitcoin. And I'm sorry, can you refresh me on the second part of your question?
The fear, the increasingly abused, the central bank has been, some of the central banks, they have been abusing the monetary policy, particularly the powerful big countries.
Yes.
Now, one of the objective was to neutralize that. How much success has this thing?
Sure. I would frame it in terms of, United States governments have said the cat is out of the bag and we can't put Bitcoin back in. To the extent that Bitcoin and other networks are truly decentralized, they're not shut down. You have countries like China trying to shut Bitcoin down. I know a lot of folks here are not paying attention to the news since 5 years ago, but China tries to shut Bitcoin down 1 to 2 times every single year. And every time, if there's actually a metric where if you bought Bitcoin when the Chinese government banned Bitcoin, you would do very, very well. So that's actually a buying signal. So I think to the extent that Bitcoin is something that exists free from human interaction, free from politicization, I think it's succeeded. Energy consumption is an issue for Bitcoin, that there are solutions to these problems, but there are macro risks. Bitcoin could become legislated against by the United States. I don't see it happening. So I think it's been a modest success. And I think there will be technological upgrades to the network that will address some of the issues.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I think we next have Sissy, who has her hand up for a while. Sissy, go ahead.
Hi, Sissy here. Thanks for the presentation. I actually just opened CoinHeckle and the OpenSea account recently, and I bought some Ethereum. So I have two questions. I feel it's kind of, because I'm a finance professional, right? So I tried a bit of everything. I realize it's actually the price fluctuation is really, I mean, like 7 seconds later, it can go from $100 to like to like $300. I immediately come back the next few seconds. And sometimes there's another thing is the technical issue. Sometimes I feel like the platform cannot support, because when you want to, for example, do arbitrage, for example, that's a swap, right? So currency swap, I think it's just like Forex. But for Forex, you can actually calculate the price you want to do the arbitrage. That means the price difference, right? So, but for this, it seems that it's luck. So they will swap for you. And then when you put the money in, there's also a gas fee. The gas fee also fluctuates with time. Every few seconds, it also fluctuates. So I feel like there's no way that you can actually calculate and make the trade on time. And when you put the money in, you cannot get the money out unless you connect to CoinHeckle, if I understood correctly. So you mentioned that there's a way to evaluate and also do the trading on time. So I just wonder how it can be done. That's the first question. And also the second question is, I saw on your slides that you made some projections. What are the data points that for you to, the supporting data points for you to make the projection? Thanks.
Sure, great question. So number one, if you are buying and selling NFTs and gas fees are an issue, you need to stop using the Ethereum blockchain. So different set of NFTs, different blockchain, lower gas fees. Other blockchains have less congestion. I think Tezos has some NFTs happening and it's actually the Singapore Art Festival. I think I got that right. So there are non-Ethereum NFTs that I would encourage you to check out. If you're doing actual on-chain trading of cryptocurrencies, if I understood your arbitrage question correctly, you can use an exchange to do that where there's an order book, so you don't face that gas fee issue. The projection, were you referring, I'm guessing you're referring to the line that had Bitcoin just going up over time. That I skipped over because I took so damn long figuring out PowerPoint. There's a mathematical relationship between Bitcoin's scarcity and its market value. If you would like to Google it, I'll just type it here. So just Google Bitcoin stock to flow and plan B. There's a somewhat complex mathematical relationship that quantifies the scarcity. There's a linear equation that can be used not only for Bitcoin, but also gold and silver. So stuff that is scarce tends to be worth more, stuff that is less scarce tends to be worth less. So that's what that model is based on. There are criticisms of that model. Yeah, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Happy to catch up and have a coffee.
Hey.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, can we have Robert? Robert, your question, please.
Yes, hi, Hayden. You mentioned about NFTs being less pervasive in the future. You didn't think their future was very bright, and yet some car makers are starting to employ NFTs because they think it's a great way to endorse ownership. And that's going to happen in cars, and there's quite a lot of cars going to hit the markets. And I guess people really want to know that things belong to them when things are not suddenly there. That's always a good market, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm sorry, let me clarify. I practiced these slides with more speaking time without taking 7 minutes off to learn how to use PowerPoint. So I apologize for rushing through. My comments around NFTs, my comment was really intended to communicate the fact that the NFT market that exists today is under threat. The NFT market of the future, I think NFTs as a technology stack have the potential to change car ownership and season tickets for sports. But what you're referring to is something that we saw a lot of in 2017 as crypto became not part of the mainstream, but part of mainstream awareness in late 2017. Banks and everyone started to toy with the idea of cryptocurrency. The actual adoption, I mean, companies move pretty slow, right? So the actual uptake of cryptocurrencies by many of those organizations that were talking about it, exploring in 2017, didn't happen really until this year. So if there's car companies talking about doing NFTs, that doesn't mean they're going to be launching it next week. So I absolutely believe that NFTs are a force for good. And I don't think that NFTs are a fad that's going away. But what I'm saying is a picture of a monkey that sells for $2 million and then sells an hour later for $3 million. That specific aspect is a sign to me of an overvalued market. So I hope that clarifies a little bit.
Okay, thanks, yes.
All right, Sergeant at Arms, Klaus, you have a question as well?
Yeah, I have a question. These data centers and platforms and machines where these Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies are traded, and the blockchains, they use up huge energy. In Singapore, as far as I know, between 5 and 10% of the total energy production, electricity production. How can this be sustainable if this blockchain market increases to everybody or in much more markets and products?
Sure, great question. So I think I haven't seen the specific research that you're looking at in terms of the energy consumption in Singapore, but it is crypto mining does use a heck of a lot of energy, and that's very energy intensive. We've seen more and more examples of this over the past little while. Some cryptocurrencies or some blockchains have a different way of creating cryptocurrency. In other words, the way that they validate transactions. That's what Bitcoin miners are doing. They're validating transactions, receiving a reward. Some cryptocurrencies don't require such energy intensive consumption. And I think some of those cryptocurrencies, many of them are trying to become more and more scalable today. So this is something that, we've had a question already on this call about gas fees. That's an example of one blockchain, excuse me, being inefficient and needing to become more efficient. But there are other blockchains that are not so inefficient. And I think people will vote with their feet. If there are high transaction fees, if transactions are slow, I'm not going to use this blockchain, I'm going to use that one. So it's a process that's already happening. And I would think that over time, those changes to the way that transactions are validated, as well as consumers' choices to use blockchains that are easier, cheaper, faster, those will be the two driving forces.
Wonderful. So, Past President Mark, would you like to ask your questions? Okay, so maybe Mark's not responding. Anyone else has any questions?
Yeah, hi, this is Vivek here. I typed in a question on the chat that, of late, the price of cryptos seem to be mirroring the performance of the hyper growth tech stocks, suggesting that they may be a bit overvalued. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I showed a chart, this market cap to TVL, and maybe I'll just show it again quickly. So I think there are some cryptocurrencies that have adoption, and I think it's important. Let me just find the slide quickly while we're talking. This is it here. So this right here is, I think, a piece of evidence for the fact that there are some cryptocurrencies that actually have an blockchain, an ecosystem on top. So I think that as a whole, it's fair to say some cryptocurrencies are overvalued just because. And to be really fair, I think there are some cryptocurrencies that have accomplished nothing. They don't have any business. They haven't launched their app. They've been building. Even there's one on this list, which has been under development for many, many years. So I think there are a lot of overvalued cryptocurrencies, but if you look at this just right here on the screen, you can actually see the value of the ecosystem in that third column, or sorry, the second column. So if I was going to be choosing to start investing in cryptocurrencies today, I would ask the question of, well, who's done a great job creating an ecosystem? And who do I believe is going to build a great ecosystem for the future? And if you believe that the value of the ecosystem will be larger in the future than they are today, then I think short-term volatility should not be a concern. But it comes down to individual risk reward. I'm very comfortable with taking these bets on these highly volatile cryptocurrencies because I'm in the space. I talk to the founding teams. I talk to the developers. But I wouldn't want to just go blindly. There's thousands and thousands of cryptocurrencies. I wouldn't want to just say, I'll take some of this and some of this. And it's not like ordering appetizers at a restaurant. In a bull market, it is. Everything goes up. But I think at this stage, we really need to be very selective about what we choose. And it's important, I think, to choose things that have an ecosystem that we can look at and see what's there. So that's the one comment I would make.
Thank you.
Now, can we have Anita, your question, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Hayden, for the wonderful presentation. And I have a question. I do Bitcoin mining myself. So
nice.
I invested in Bitcoin mining. So my question is, there is a concept of halving, right? Every 4 years. That's
yeah.
So what is your advice on like buying the selling the Bitcoin before or after halving? What do you think?
Well, historically, the best strategy has been never to sell the Bitcoin ever and just hold for a very long time. If you'd held for 5 years, that would have been possibly a better investment than anything else on the history of, at least in the last 100 years. So it's very challenging when markets are going down to just hold. And frankly, it's taken me many years to get used to it. So my advice would be, wait. I mean, it's just like Warren Buffett said, you need to be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. So it feels to me like we're somewhere still in a bull market. At some point, there will be a major drawdown. We could go into 29,000, 24,000, 27,000. I'm a buyer anywhere below 40K BTC. So am I a seller ever? Probably not. No, unless I have a leveraged position. So my advice would be to just, if you're already in crypto, just buy and hold. And if you hold for 5 years, that tends to be a pretty good. I know people that actually never sell. There's banks that specialize in this. They deposit their Bitcoin to a bank, and the bank loans them money, and they just live off of that. So that's not advice, but I think buy and hold is the best way to go.
Got that. Thank you.
So we have our last question for this evening from Director Mukund.
My question, thank you for that wonderful presentation, Hayden. Right. My question is, how do we have a risk mitigation? Is there a way to have that in place?
Well, I think you can become customers of Alpha Impact, where it's free and you can see what top traders are doing. But aside from that, and I apologize for being a little cheeky, I think that cryptocurrencies need to occupy a space in the portfolio that is enough to make a life change if it goes up, but not enough to make a life change if it goes down. So I've worked with a lot of family offices. They took a very long time to get in. Most of them are allocating somewhere between 0.1 and 4% into crypto. Most people that work in crypto are closer to 100%. I'm not at 100%, but not far off. But I think it really comes down to, you need to have a little bit, just in case I'm right and all the bankers are wrong, but you need to not have so much that you're going to be having high blood pressure when things might go down. in terms of a catch-all, I think that's the only risk mitigation. There are, there are some investments that you can do with stable coins. So USDT, you can deposit USDT, which is a USD denominated cryptocurrency investment in some of these platforms, and you can earn a 10, 12, 15, 14% return. That is never going to give you 1,000 times, never going to give you 10 times, but it's a much safer way on a risk-adjusted basis. So either that staking, where you can deposit your assets in some of these platforms, CoinHacko, I'm sure, have it as well, or just having a small enough percentage of your portfolio that you're not going to be underwater if, what was it, Warren Buffett said that if the tide goes out, no one will see if you're not wearing shorts, something along those lines. So having a small nest egg in crypto, and also maybe using some of these staking platforms.
Thank you for that, Hayden.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. And this is again Rotarian Hayden Hughes. Thank you very much. I would like to officially ask Colin Miles, Rotarian Colin Miles, to give the vote of thanks, please.
Thank you, President Lewis. Greetings to honorary members, past presidents, fellow Rotarians and guests. Obviously, I feel like I've been having a conversation with Hayden throughout the presentation, because he did mention us a few times, which was great. We appreciate that. But it's my job to give a vote of thanks and to summarize what I think we took out from the presentation. It's very clear that when you go into the blockchain and crypto metaverse, you disappear down a rabbit hole. It's very hard to come back out again. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of education required, and I think Hayden touched on the fact that you can educate yourself in certain sites. In fact, the Coinbase site he mentioned, you actually can earn tokens for going through the videos and learning about crypto. So it's quite a useful site. The lessons, definitely do your own research. It's called DYOR in the industry. We talk about it a lot, so people can arm themselves with as much research as possible before looking to invest. Have diamond hands. This is another phrase we use in the industry, because when the market drops, it can drop very fast and very scarily. Having diamond hands means you can stick and hold for the 4 years that Hayden's recommending. And look at tokens with an ecosystem, those which have large numbers of transactions, large numbers of users, and look set to grow over time. So it's actually about adoption, and adoption is coming. Okay, it's been about 10 years for Bitcoin, but for other tokens, much less time. And we're seeing the prevalence of NFTs really helping educate people into the use of the blockchain. So there's a huge amount of momentum behind this adoption. So it's a very exciting time to at least dip your toe in the water, up to 4%, I think Hayden said. So that's not bad advice. And I'd like us all, on behalf of the Rotary Club of Singapore, to thank our member Hayden for an excellent and illuminating presentation on digital assets. Thank you, Hayden.
Please unmute yourselves and give a round of applause. Yes.
Well done, Hayden.
Hayden, well done, Hayden.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And okay, next week, what we have next week will be, the 4-way test. So I would like to ask that all of you join us. If you are not able to secure a ticket, I was just looking at the message from James, PE James. I think it's sold. Unfortunately, we have only 50. But do join us through Zoom. We will share the details in a few days, probably by next Monday. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. We would like to thank Hayden for sharing with us. My only mistake was I went through law school all the way and I became a lawyer. I should have been smarter. Okay, then we will not be making tough money. Yeah. So anyway, thank you everyone, and meeting is closed.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good meeting.